Hello and welcome to Tea Time. Today with me, Chaiti Narula. We're at Unitech Golf and Country Club on the outskirts of New Delhi in Noida, and rather very warm weather for us to play golf, but indeed very interesting as well at the same time. On the show today, I've got the Managing Director of Swiss Military Worldwide, Anuj Sawhney. We're going to be discussing Swiss Military's expansion into retail stores in India, their aggressive growth plans for India, and their outlook for the retail sector going forward.
On the show this week, we have Anuj Sawhney, MD, Swiss Military Worldwide.
Swiss Military specifically has had a triple-digit growth year on year for the last 5 years of its introduction in the Indian subcontinent. So the sentiments obviously are very positive.
In news, Camilo Villegas wins Wyndham Championship. And Mark Warren wins his third European Tour title, the Denmark Open.
Welcome to the show, Anuj Sawhney.
Thank you.
Good to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start off with your expansion plans. Now, Swiss Military is starting and aggressively wanting to market itself in India now. You all are going on an expansion spree where you all are going to be setting up a lot of retail stores in India, and that's aggressively something which is on the anvil. But now the Commerce Minister Nirmala Sitaram from BJP, she recently said that foreign players will not be allowed to open mega stores in this country because, of course, the incumbents need to stay protective. And BJP's stand on multi-brand retail and FDI, as far as that's concerned, has always been fairly conservative.
Sure.
In the light of all of this, what are your plans now and how does this impact you?
You see, how Swiss Military has always traditionally worked, even in the European segment, is we have, primarily a lot of the company-owned stores.
Right.
Which, offer the flagships for people to walk in and see the extensive range of products being offered by Swiss Military.
Right.
Per se, in the international segment, we have about 12 different product lines.
Right.
Now, the expansion really happens on a franchisee level.
Right.
Where we have about, for example, in the European domain, in excess of 600 stores.
Sure.
So, a multi-brand outlet for a Swiss Military, would be being part of a modern trade store, a large format store, and being part of the big game in that respect. So really, FDI for us really doesn't make much of a difference. We normally have regular small stores. It's a brand which believes in being for the people. It's an affordable luxury is the tagline of the brand.
Right.
So we are not looking at mega stores.
You're not looking at them.
No. So we have a
then
store.
Then you're safe.
And we have a one-stop shop for everyone. So you would have a certain segment of travel gear, you would have a certain segment of garments, you would have a certain segment of watches inside the same store. So anybody walking in is surprised by the range that the brand has, is surprised by the affordable luxury and the price tags that the brand offers.
Right.
And at the same time, the uniqueness of the brand, because most products that we offer are multi-utility.
Now, what about the tax structure in this country? Do you feel that this tax structure is headed to be a little more liberal going forward?
See, the liberal aspect is something which is very subjective. Industrialists might find a certain tax going up which is not very good for his immediate concerns or his immediate industry, which I think is a very micro level view of, viewing the entire way that a government...
As far as your company is concerned, how do you think it will pan out for you?
See, eventually, if the market grows, if it is pro-industry, if it is promoting retail, if it is promoting industry and imports and, players coming in and investing into the company and investing into the country per se, it is always positive. So, therefore, I normally do not look at a micro-level view of a certain tax going up, which really, affects the bottom line, which needs to be bad for the industry. Because whatever is being taxed from the companies and bringing to the economy is eventually going to go into the growth that is going to be there for the entire industry.
What kind of problems did you have initially when you were importing in India, really, as far as tax was concerned?
See, the import duty structures vary all the time.
Right.
Your freights vary all the time.
Right.
The dollar took a very massive hit last year.
Right.
Due to which the import costs of most of the shipments that we got in were going completely haywire. Now, when a company is very heavily dependent on imports coming in from different countries, obviously the dollar fluctuation takes a big hit.
You
now
are somewhere dependent on imports, right?
Yes. So primarily we have vendors.
You don't
vendors
manufacture
globally.
in India.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
No. So we have
right.
Vendors globally. So now what happens is, changing MRPs for your products every time a shipment goes haywire with the costing doesn't make sense for a brand.
Obviously.
Especially when you have such an extensive
So you have
range.
to absorb it into your P&L.
Absolutely.
Of course.
And beyond a certain point you can't do that. So either you would get rid of that SKU, or on the other end you would rather have a new SKU coming in where you can redefine the MRPs being charged from the market.
Now the estimates for the Indian retail sector, about 47 trillion rupees is what a leading industry estimate suggests is what the industry will come to by the year 2017. True. And it's expected to grow at a CAGR of about 15% thereabouts in that period as well, starting from now. How optimistic are you about this figure?
See, when we talk about an industry, a 15% growth year on year for any economy to sustain is phenomenal, which is what is the transition of the Indian economy coming from a developing country to a developed nation,
Right.
Swiss military specifically has had a triple-digit growth year on year for the last 5 years of its introduction in the Indian subcontinent.
Sure.
So the sentiments obviously are very positive.
Sure.
But having said that, there are very dynamic changes happening, throughout the economy. When you talk about retail in specific, you're talking about technological changes, you're talking about brick and mortar, traditional retail formats being secondary now, because people have options of, all the retail stores on their tablets, on their mobile phones, on any kind of devices that they have.
That's e-commerce. I'm talking specifically about the retail industry as far as brick and mortar is concerned.
Right.
The estimate suggests 47 trillion rupees by 2017.
Right.
Are these in line with your estimates at Swiss military at all?
Absolutely. I think the estimates that the industry has are still conservative. I think they would be even higher, for brands like ours, because people are looking for brands that are affordable. People are looking for a one-stop shop. People at the same time are looking for something which excites them. The bombardment of so many brands, so many different kinds of concepts every day on the certain consumer in the market has made them very aware of brands. They're very brand conscious at the same time. They're very, very educated because they are being given facts and figures about different companies making different products all the time. So when you actually have a convert, when you talk about the conversion of a person walking into a store and actually spending the money to buy it, even in our stores, it's one of the highest in the world. We have a 74% conversion, which means out of every 4 people walking into a store, almost 3 buy a product. So the industry estimates are very positive. I think they are in line with the way the economy is changing, with the way the trends are happening.
Okay, so on that note, I'm going to tee off and we continue our conversation.
Sure.
Come. Thank you. So Anuj, let's talk about the future of the retail industry. Do you think we have arrived as a country as far as the future of retail industry is concerned? Because we've always been talking about the e-commerce wave, and today we are bidding farewell to the brick and mortar stores, really. What is your take on that?
See, it's a long way to go. When you talk about the Western markets,
interesting.
Yeah, you talk about the Western markets, and you really walk into a store, in any of the Western countries, the entire environment, the way they have actually, matured into being where they are today, is a different ballgame altogether. But having said that, we are on the right footstep. Now, the good thing about the Indian market right now is that we've leapfrogged the technology, in a lot of ways. When telecommunications was, taking a hit, we suddenly leapfrogged into having cell phones, with the result that anybody and everybody had cell phones around.
Right.
So, which is also happening in retail because of so many software, so many technological changes happening with, like you said, non-traditional ways of doing retail. It has actually helped the market. And retail industry too has to be very, very, sure of making sure that they streamline the way they are giving the experience to the customer walking into a store, walking into an online store, walking into some kind of a virtual shop where they're offering the products, so which will help them. But then it's a challenge, it's something that needs to be worked upon. It would take some time, but it's a good step that, this is happening now. The changes are happening everywhere, and anybody and everybody who is up to the challenge at stake would be benefiting from it.
And what is your take at Swiss Military as far as e-commerce is concerned? Are you also planning to retail your products online in this country?
Absolutely. For us, it's a very, very big impetus as far as online retail is concerned. We have partners with most of the big online sites that we have. The website that we have also has been e-commerce friendly for the last couple of years that we launched over here.
Right.
So that is something which is always on an impetus. We are streamlining the process all the time. We're trying to understand how to better the experience to the customer walking in with loyalty programs and so on. So it is, it's, as I said again, like the earlier question that you asked me, it is something which we're working on all the time and we're improving.
That's fantastic. Well played. So, Anuj, what should a robust retail strategy look like for India? For any brand like yours?
See, it's a
utopian scenario is what we're focusing on right now.
See, the most important thing for any brand to understand is the fact that the cultural diversity in India is so extensive that you really have to customize the product that you have for the audience.
Sure.
The Indian customer, the Indian retail infrastructure is also is unlike any other customer, any other company, any other country in the world. Now, having said that, every brand has to understand the target customer and customize the retail experience for him. Like for a brand like Swiss Military, you can't have a person who's a tourist walking into a souvenir shop in a country like Switzerland to be the same customer who walks into a store in a place, a mass retail store in somewhere in Delhi. So the products, the price points, the customization of the product has to be done accordingly. At the same time, it has to be a very streamlined experience to be given to the customer. So if a customer walks into a store versus a customer comes to an online experience, the basic brand values, the basic brand strategy has to be very in sync with the overall corporate strategy that the company has in mind.
Right.
The vision has to be clear, and this has to be clearly communicated to the customer.
Lovely. Now, tell me, with technological innovation, how different is your retail marketing strategy in light of the recent technological innovation and the fact that India's caught on quite a bit to the tech game?
See, it forms the backbone of the entire retail strategy primarily, because sitting at your home, you can visualize a product, you can visualize the brand, you can visualize the brand values that are being projected to a certain customer. So for us, again, the online impetus of Swiss Military is very much in sync with the brick and mortar impetus that we have. The BTL expenses being taken on board, to promote the brand online is again very much in sync with the overall strategy of pushing the brand through and making sure that it's visible amongst the gambit of brands that you have in the market today.
Right.
So for us, it's very, very important. At the same time, we're trying to make sure that we reach the maximum number of customers from way of tablets, from way of applications that are there, from way of banners with partner sites. So it's a very comprehensive strategy being taken on board. And as I said again, it's going to be it takes time to build on. When the engine optimizations keep in, when the hits are multiplying, the word of mouth catches on. So any brand gains in due course of time.
So now, Anuj, do you think that India is lagging behind when it comes to leveraging the power of data analytics for the retail sector?
We're still getting there. We don't even understand how vast the demographics of a country like ours are, what exactly the value of this data is to be mining and exploring, and then really understanding how to forecast your future and make sure that the decisions taken by the company are in sync with what data you're getting. Like the Western counterparts have very extensive mining capabilities, understanding the stochastics of the sales that are happening region-wise or SKU-wise, and then breaking it down into a strategy that makes sure that those numbers are duplicated in the future and you have a very strong forecasting mechanism. So it's something, it's a trend which again is coming into India as of now. It is something we can't do without, especially with so many brands being thrown in and, you know, one brand being pitted against so many others. So unless you have that data to, you know, to mine, to really understand what's going on with the business, to understand what's going on with the customer, to understand what's going on with the trends, you can't survive.
And what about cloud? Is it helping you achieve better transparency in transactions?
Yeah, and not just transactions. In fact, we've introduced the cloud, you know, within the organization to even to make sure that the ERP is accessible for the entire team.
Fantastic.
Yeah, on a pan-India basis. So with the result that even a person, sales officer going into a distributor's store can enter his feedback, his SKU requirement immediately there.
Right.
And in real time, the same is dispatched from the warehouse in, you know, the master warehouse, catering and feeding that.
I mean, this is a huge shift in what we saw in retail about a couple of years ago in India, isn't it?
But which is what is the difference between a developing economy coming to, you know,
being a developed
exactly.
one
So
matters,
this is important.
yeah.
And you know, initially when there are not too many players where
Yeah.
you can command the price that you want, you
Right.
can make any average product and try and sell it.
Right.
Coming to, you know, so many players coming in and trying to, you know, have an upmanship happening on everything, coming from retail to the kind of ATL expenses that they are catering to the kind of product, you know, bouquet that they're offering to the customer.
Right.
You don't have a choice. So that is
Fantastic.
something you have to understand as a managing director, and you have to make sure that the company is, you know, very clear as to the path that it's taken and the path it's going on.
All right, on that note, it's a good time now for us to take a break right here on Tea Time. On the other side, we will finish our game and finish our conversation with Anuj as well. Stay with us. Welcome back to Tea Time. Now, Anuj, do you think that the top priorities today for a CEO are achieving a good profitable growth and inventory management being the key at the moment?
Yes.
As far as your sector is concerned?
Absolutely, because I mean, most of the investment that a brand really does is in stocks, in
Right.
inventory. To understand which are the fast-moving ones, to make sure that you get rid of the ones that are you know, heavily invested into, which are not attaining the kind of turnover that you would ideally want them to be,
Right.
and making sure that the trends that are happening in the market are catered to. So inventory management and control with the kind of ERP solutions that, you know, one introduces
Right.
is actually the lifeline of any business.
What about the B2B to B2C transition that you've had at Swiss Military? What prompted you to go B2C from what you were, business to business?
What happened with Swiss Military was that the brand was introduced into the Indian domain about 5 years back.
Right.
Top management wanted to be very sure that the success that was duplicated in other countries globally was the same in India. At the same time, we did understand that the Indian continent is very, very culturally diverse. The tastes and requirements are different. We customized the entire product range. We made sure that whatever we felt would be very good brand fits, product fits for the customer over here are introduced first. So eventually the B2B growth that we attained was almost triple digit, year on year for the last 5 years.
Right.
You know, the customer feedback kept prompting us to, you know, expand the avenues of expansion. So we moved to online, you know, with the partners first. Then we moved to in-flight sales with a lot of partners now having Swiss Military. And now for the last 3 months, it's the retail B2C division that's been giving a lot of impetus. We're looking at about 70 odd MBOs immediately with Delhi, NCR and Chandigarh in the test phase, and then we go
Right.
pan-India.
And your association with the Swiss Military dates back to 30 years in
Yes.
terms of your family's association. Let's go over that a little bit. I mean, 30 years association with this brand, and then eventually you went on to buy stake as well in this company.
Right.
Let's go over your journey with Swiss Military from the start to finish.
The brand began in 1984
Right.
with the principals and my father.
Right.
So the company was doing promotional gifts and items and garments for a lot of companies.
And
over
back
there.
in Switzerland, of
Yes.
course.
So the company was christened Promo Shirt SM Private Limited, which is the one,
Right.
the parent company owning Swiss Military worldwide. Here on, we grew to the extent of having 600 stores in Europe alone and a presence in 26 countries globally. It was about 5 years back that we bought the brand over from the Swiss principals, with the result that anybody who would be a distributor or a franchisee or a licensee for the brand would come to us. The products grew to an extent of having 12 different product lines across, about 1,600 products on a global product portfolio. Every country was given a specific product portfolio suiting and catering to their needs and their requirements. Korea, for example, became a licensing opportunity for us.
Right.
Australia was a typical hub and spoke distributor-retailer kind of a relationship. India was a very different market for us. So we wanted to make sure that we are understanding the market before we got into the retail for it.
Right.
Which is why we introduced travel gear first.
Right.
We introduced writing instruments and pens, which happens to be the backbone of Swiss Military today, and a whole range of accessories. So when we talk about accessories, we're talking about torches and keychains and leather equipment and adapters, and which is where the USP of the brand comes across, because ultimately it's a men's lifestyle product a brand, and it's a one-stop shop. So anything possibly that you think about a men's lifestyle product would be introduced soon in the Indian.
Which one would be your best performing vertical?
See, globally it's baggage, it's travel gear.
Right.
Then is writing instruments.
What about India?
India is writing instruments primarily, and baggage is now catching up because the number of SKUs that we offer as of now in the Indian subcontinent is very minimal.
Right.
So we're expanding the product range now. We're going to back up writing instruments with baggage, and we're getting into garments, cosmetics, and sunglasses very soon.
And you also have recently introduced golfing equipment as well.
Yes.
What led you to introduce that?
See, golf for us has been a very strong marketing impetus also
Right.
for the fact that a lot of the players in the market would want to see Swiss military. You know, with the B2B impetus of the brand in the initial 5 years, we wanted to be where, we wanted to put the money where, the buck is. So ultimately we started doing a lot of these golfing equipments like ball retrievers, like umbrellas, like, golf flasks with certain tees. Combo of a towel, a flask, and a tea bag, which you can just strap onto your belt.
Sure.
So innovative products that the customer requires, but which you don't really find available for a golfing pro in India.
While your focus at the Swiss military primarily has been the metros,
Right.
Are you also planning to focus on non-metros? Do you think you have a market for Swiss military there, or it's a little too refined for the non-metros at present? Because I saw your expansion strategy as
Right.
well. Every city that you've marked out
Right.
is primarily a tier 1 metropolitan.
Tier 1, 2 to the
Tier
extent
1
of
to
maybe a
semi
Chandigarh
to,
or a
yes,
Amritsar
yes,
or
yes, but
a
not
Ludhiana.
really gone below that.
Yes. Now that has been a part of the corporate strategy because we felt that the really brand conscious, brand aware Indian customer is in these metros. But having said that, we are catering to tier 3 towns through home shop TV networks, through online sales. And there's a huge impetus
That's
over
where
there.
it kicks in, really.
Yes, yes.
But not really brick and mortar. It doesn't make sense because the consumer there may not be that discerning,
Exactly,
is it?
but at the same time, why we're doing online and home shop television kind of marketing is because,
Right.
as I said, the customer in these tier 3 towns is very brand conscious. He's very
Right.
brand aware.
Right,
And he's looking at an affordable brand.
right.
And not many brands would really be affordable for a tier 3 town customer.
Sure.
Like we have a range starting from 290 rupees going up to 16,000 rupees for an SKU.
Sure.
So when you talk about sporting a brand which you can afford, and the disposable incomes in most of these tier 3 towns is going up, it'll be you'll be surprised to know the kind of money that people really have to spend on brands and the kind of buying power that they actually execute. So we do recognize that, we do understand that a tier 3 town, a tier 2 town, or a smaller tier 2 town is also very important for us. But yes, like you're saying, traditionally we're not catering to that through a brick and mortar impetus, but more through online and home shop TV networks.
All right, let's finish our game and we continue talking
Sure.
more. Come.
Those.
My par 3 finished in par 4. Got a bogey.
That's me.
Oh, fantastic. Well played.
Thank you.
Your brother's a golfer and a very avid golfer while
Right.
at it. You play a little bit here and there. When are you planning to catch on to the game like your brother?
I've actually picked up an apartment on the golf course.
At DLF, I know.
At DLF.
And you're a member there.
Yes. So I've picked it up there, with the hope that I would be pursuing
So
golf.
that was
The first
baby step to learning golf is buy an apartment at a golf
Yes.
course.
So I should be getting there very soon. I should be, being able to hold a game with my brother, and not making, a fool of myself. So I hope to get in there. I love the sport. It's just that because of my extensive traveling, I have not really been finding the
I
time to
think
get
that
down
should
to
be more
doing
of a
it.
reason for you to play.
Yes,
extensive traveling.
I should be getting
well,
that.
on a concluding note, what are the rules by which you live your life as an entrepreneur?
I don't have regrets. I take risks. I thrive on them, and at the same time, I don't look back and say that I shouldn't have done something, because a couple of years down, when you look back and you don't have the opportunity, you would just regret saying that I had the chance to do it and I didn't do it that time. So as an entrepreneur, as a person, as an individual, I do take risks. Sometimes they backfire, but then that's a part of growing up.
All right, on that note, lovely note. Thank you so
Thanks.
much for joining me in this heat.
It's a pleasure.
And playing a hole with me. On that note, it's a wrap from me, Chaiti Narula and Anuj Sawhney of Swiss Military. I will see you next week again. Until then, enjoy the flight of a good drive.